The World Soul by H. Fielding Hall. Chapter 1. What Thought Is. Which of you shall have a friend, and shall go unto him at midnight, and say unto him, Friend, lend me 3 loaves, for a friend of mine in his journey is come to me, and I have nothing to set before him. And from within shall answer and say, Trouble me not, the door is now shut, and my children are with me in bed. I cannot rise and give thee. I say unto you, though he will not rise and give him, because he is his friend, yet because of his importunity he will rise and give him as many as he needeth. And I say unto you, Ask, and it shall be given you. Seek, and ye shall find. Knock, and it shall be opened unto you. For every one that asketh receiveth, and he that seeketh findeth, and to him that knocketh it shall be opened. You seek in life for truths. You ask in thought for their explanation. You knock with sincerity and courage. The World Soul, Chapter 1. If you woke one morning in an unknown country and were told you had to walk through it, you would, before you started, ask, which is the way? You would know it was no good walking at random this way and that, with no fixed purpose. You would want to know whether you were to go and where you would arrive. It would have to be some pleasant place, or you would not care to walk at all. If you had to go to some end you did not care for, you would take no interest in your walk. You might refuse to move. You must learn where you have to arrive and the direction. At birth we all come into an unknown country, which is life. There are a great many other people also there, and all are traveling along through life. There are also animals and other living creatures in the same case. We are all together in some way. What is the object to be attained in life? Where ought we to be going? What is the right direction? So that we can walk straight and not lose our way, nor waste time, nor fall over precipices. Whither is the stream of life inevitably flowing, that we may go with the current and not against it? Is not that knowledge the first necessity? Everyone who takes the trouble to think the matter out will see this for himself. Everyone who has really thought has seen that until this question is solved satisfactorily, no conclusion can be come to on any subject. All knowledge must be empirical, and all action can be right only by chance. Unless you know to what the world has tended and trends, you cannot begin to understand anything of the world. Unless you know what your objective is, you cannot know whether any course of action is rightly designed to assist towards that end. Without a true solution to the eternal whence and whither, all thought and action are and must be blindfold groping, touching the truth only by chance. Life has no meaning. Now, there is in every child that is born into the world an instinctive knowledge of the answer. In early man, this instinctive wisdom was allowed to grow, and it found expression. It was not very full nor detailed, but it was simple and it was true. It seemed to have been almost universal. Perhaps it was universal. You will find it in the legends at the beginning of Genesis, in the sacred books of all peoples, the Eddas, the Upanishads, in China, Japan, Britain, and Mexico, to give only a few instances. It was expressed in varying forms, looked at from different standpoints, but it was always the same truth. It was the possession of this truth which gave rise to the subsequent conception of the golden age of man and his fall. for this truth was killed. What this truth was, how it was killed, and who killed it will come later, but it utterly disappeared everywhere. The legends in which it was enshrined remained, but no one could interpret them. They were misinterpreted, made nonsense of, and disappeared from popular understanding entirely. So for thousands of years, men lived in almost darkness, the recurring truth in children being always suppressed as opposed to religion. And then again came light. Jesus, the world thinker, was in the world to think for it and tell it whence it came and whither it was bound. How so to live as to accelerate that purpose which is in the world and for the world. But with one exception, the writer of the fourth gospel, no one even partially understood. The life of Jesus and his thought were misinterpreted. From out of his teachings, a few simple truths were taken. All the rest were misinterpreted, and thought was once more fossilized and dead. All research was persecuted and destroyed. The very little that was partially understood of what Jesus was and said was hidden in a mass of superstition and called Christianity. This was the faith that I was taught when young. Briefly, it is this. A God all-powerful, all-wise, all-loving made the world, no one knows for why. It is a failure full of misery, sin, and suffering. So he sent his Son to save it by his blood, because God had to be propitiated for the sin of his own creation. Jesus was born of miracle, lived in miracle, died in miracle, a denial of God's own rule of law. He taught that the world is evil, and we must escape from it. We must be innocent and pure, abjure the world, and when we die, those who succeed will go to heaven to live forever uselessly because they are unfit for any work, and there is no work to do. The majority will burn in hell. Their symbol is that of death, a crucifix or cross. I did not believe a word of it. Even as a boy, I saw instinctively and very dimly a great many things. No God would sacrifice his Son to himself. He might send his Son to war knowing he would be killed. That is a different matter. But in that case, how could he be almighty? I saw that the world was beautiful, and that if it was not entirely happy, it was because of defects which existed to be overcome. For the whole value of life lay in overcoming them and going on. Trouble was to be faced, not to be run away from. Purity and innocence were at best negative virtues, and were hindrances in battle or in life. A soldier's sword had to be stained with blood, not kept within its sheath in idle innocence, which is only a euphemism for ignorance. All the world is one, now and forever, never separated into heaven nor hell, here or hereafter. I didn't want to go to either heaven or hell. I wanted life, and so did all others I knew. A man's acts are not a fair criterion of his worth. Nearly all his acts are bound by birth, physique, by circumstances, by authority. No two men are born alike. Therefore, no two men can be judged alike. The theory and the ethics of the churches are inconsistent, wanting, and harmful often to the world. They are exceedingly depressing, whereas truth must give joy and courage. They had degrading ideas of God. What Jesus meant I didn't know, but neither did the churches. Their interpretation of him was absurd. They didn't want to know what he meant. They wanted to wash in his blood and not in the least to understand or follow what he said. Their object was to benefit by his death, not by his life. And I saw that all the world which took the trouble to think agreed, and always had agreed with me. Yet the progressive world is nominally Christian. Why? For these reasons. A love to Jesus. It is an unreasoning love. It does not understand him. It does not try. It disagrees with nearly all the things it thinks he said. It is afraid of him, and yet it loves him. It feels in him instinctively the greatest personality the world has known, and it thinks that any church which put the name of Christ upon its banner must be true. That is the main reason. Then there are some truths in Christianity, disconnected and empirical truths, yet true. Any answer to the whence, the why, the whither is better than no answer. Drowning men catch at straws. Moreover, most men have been from their birth brought up to such spiritual cowardice, to such denial of the inward light, that they dare not think, dare not confess even to themselves the need for thought, the terrible void to be filled. They disbelieve, yet wrap their disbelief in secrecy, from fear. They call peace, peace, where there is no peace. They hope against all hope, and the powers that be are interested in retaining men in mental slavery and obedience. I disbelieved quite frankly and openly, and asked questions. No one answered them because no one had an answer. They said there wasn't any. I did not believe that. There is an answer to every question. Questions are put there to be answered. I was told that it was impious to question, that God will not pardon curiosity. I know that if God made the world, he was not ashamed of what he had done, nor would he want to hide it. It was there for us to know. I wanted to know, and would know if I could, the world, its why, its whither, what Jesus really was and did and said, for I was quite sure the churches didn't know. This has been my driving purpose all through life. I learned, I tried, I saw, I thought. So have I done all my life. Never have I stopped seeking new truths, new experiences, new facts to extract their essence and to add to those before. I wanted that door opened that was shut. I knocked and knocked. Every book of mine has been an assault upon that door within which lay the answer to these questions. I never forced it open, but for my importunity it has opened from within at last. But before I tell what is inside, there is a long way to go. It is simple, inevitable truth. It is most beautiful, yet it is so strange, so unexpected, so contradictory to all that has been held that it must be reached by degrees. To take the reader there, he must go with me the way I traveled. Therefore I ask his patience. It is worth his while. The first essential for arriving anywhere is wanting to arrive. The dissatisfaction with things as they are, the determination to find out what they should be, and maybe if we make them so. The first essential for knowing is the wish to know. All children are born into the world with this desire, this instinctive emotional necessity for knowing. You that are fond of children, you that have children of your own, have you never noticed this? You have all been children once. What do you remember of yourselves then? Was it not the desire to find out the truth of things? The first quality of a child's mind is desire for knowledge. It sees a great number of things happening and it wants to know why. It is always asking questions. The world seems to it a very beautiful and strange place, and it wants to know all about it. It thinks it was sent into the world to find out about it, and it is right. Moreover, it has some instinctive knowledge, whether the answers it gets are true or not. It has some criterion within it of what is true. It has no prejudices. It does not have any beliefs. Its eyes are quite clear, and it wants to know the truth about everything. If you want to make a child love you, explain the meaning of things to it as much as you can. When you come to difficulties, say, "You are too little now to understand. When you get bigger, if you try, you will learn everything." The frame of mind of a child which wants all truth is what you must acquire before you can learn anything. Try to understand everything. Never give up learning. Never suppose you have learnt everything. Always try to see things clearly. Give up all prejudices and try all things you have been told. They may be wrong. Learn things for yourself. Wisdom is what you know, not what you have been told. It is what you understand, not what you believe. Every child is conscious of this. It resents rules and formulas and creeds and beliefs, as it knows they are not knowledge, but bonds on knowledge. It hates to be told, "You must believe because I tell you." It wants to exercise its thought capacity, not to have it innervated. It wants to do what is right, and it knows instinctively that the only way to do what is right is to understand what is true. This, I say, is instinctive in all children. The second quality in a child's mind is sympathy with all the good things of life. It likes and wants all that is good. It hates all that is bad. It has no prejudices. Those limitations which are called nationality, tribalism, class exclusiveness are taught. They are not natural. They are bonds on understanding. All children, too, love animals, birds, in fact, all nature, and sympathize with it. The contemptuous attitude of man to other men and to animals is from acquired intellectual pride, which is just narrowness and ignorance. Children love work, if it be real, even more than play. Throughout my life, I have had no friends like children. I love them all. I have been the best of friends with hundreds of children of many nations, and they love me because I listen to them. I feel with them. I learn. I do not want to teach. Almost all that other people teach them I have seen to be wrong, and as I did not myself know what truth was till now, I never tried to preach to them. It has been always a great grief to me to meet again those whom I have known as children, their clear and candid minds clouded with maxims, their wide outlook narrowed and confined with rules and don'ts instead of enlarged with do's, their splendid spiritual courage broken, their abounding hope often become dull resignation before the man-created sins and enigmas of life, their sympathies narrowed to a small circle and almost atrophied. They are past all power of learning. The infinite potential of their childhood has been reduced to a petty is. It is never the facts of life that do this, the hardships or the troubles or the suffering. They can all be borne, whatever they be, if you have hope and courage. It is wrong ideals, wrong teaching, the putting out of the inward light which lightens every man that is born into the world, that does the mischief. Therefore, the first necessity is to face life as a child does, as you yourself did once, to be afraid of nothing, to have good courage, to have the absolute intention to arrive coûte que coûte, at all costs. The attitude given, what are the conditions of true thought? Life is divided into thought and act, into flesh and spirit, and they have different conditions. Almost all act is bond, completely or partly. We have no control over how we are born, with what physique, of what temperament, into what circumstances. Neither have we any choice as to our parents, nor teachers, nor masters, nor government. Yet all of them we must obey in reason, for nothing can be accomplished without the united effort of some, of many, or of all. If we are all pulling separate ways, we shall stand still. When we have all learnt to see truly, we shall know the end, and cooperate to that end naturally. We shall know what to do, and do it without authority. But until then, authority is necessary to secure unity of effort. When we are perfect, we shall be all anarchists, because we shall all need no archy, having grown out of tutelage, but we have not yet reached that stage. Therefore, authority, law, and convention are necessary to us, as are leading strings to a child. They should be used as are leading strings to a child. They should be used as little as possible, it being always remembered that they are essentially evil, only tolerated because necessary evils. Eventually they are to go to limbo, but that time is not yet come. Therefore is act still in great part under authority and bond. Thought is the opposite to act. It must be free. There must be no authority or convention in thought, for they mean death. Thought is your real self, the one thing you have complete control over. Never surrender that control. If a thing is true, it is true. If it isn't true, it isn't true. That is all. And you must find out whether it is true yourself. Don't take what other people say. How will you improve your mind by doing that? How will knowledge increase if you are only allowed to think what other people tell you to believe? Wisdom is not given. We have the power to find it. If we won't, we go without. It must never be sold into slavery for any price whatever. A man's thought is his soul, and what will it profit you, though you gain the whole world, if you lose your own soul? No thought is of any value unless it is sincere. It must not be affected by others, must not want to follow or obey. It must be free as air. No man can be a thinker at all unless he is a free thinker, owing no allegiance save to sincerity and truth. Thought, like God from whom it comes and whom it reveals, is no respecter of persons. The wind bloweth where it listeth, and thou hearest the sound thereof, but canst thou tell whence it cometh, and whither it goeth? So is every one that is born of the Spirit. The Spirit is true thought. It must have neither reverence nor irreverence. It must not accept a statement for any reason but that it knows it to be true. Who said it matters not? Truth is not honored by the speaker. It is the speaker who is honored in that he has spoken truth. You must understand it. A truth is no truth for you unless you make it your truth, your thought, your soul. It is what you understand, not what someone else understands for you. There is no vicariousness in thought. You will not be judged by what others thought and you blindly accepted, but by what thought and wisdom that is in yourself. Every man sees some view of life no one else sees. He must learn it, for such knowledge is required by the world soul. Wisdom is justified of all her children. There must be no irreverence. Do not attack an idea or fact because it is unpleasant, or makes you afraid, or because you don't share it. Face it, and if it is false, realize its falsity. If it is true, its unpleasantness will go. Understand it, and you will not be afraid. Make yourself share it if it be true. That must be your intention. Never run away from facts or try to kill them. Further, you must be sure that behind all phenomenon lies a cause. Never miracle, nor accident, nor coincidence, nor law, but a living cause acting by law. As to the process of thought, it is like this. The first aim is to provide food for thought. That is brought to the brain by the perceptions and emotions. You see or hear or read a fact and put it in your thought. You do or suffer and you take the result to your thought. You see others act or suffer and by sympathy you understand and take it to your thought. Therefore, by the extent to which you see and hear and act and feel, or by the sympathy you have with others' acts and feelings, and this is the greatest power of all, to accumulate your material. It has been my good fortune to live a life of extraordinary variety. There are few things I have not felt or seen, few occupations I have not tried or been connected with, few things I have not done, few countries I have not visited, few classes of people I have not known, few notable books I have not read. Therefore, I have had great opportunity for gathering material for thought. And when it is gathered, it is like this. We say, I think, but that hardly describes it correctly, any more than saying, I live expresses the truth about our lives. Life is manifested in us, not from our will. So thinking goes on in our brains, and we watch it, and are interested in it, and have to stand it, though it often hurts. But we are not ourselves consciously doing the thinking. We have very little control over it. We cannot stop it when we want, nor entirely direct it. We can supply it with facts and observations, and the thinking develops them. Our thoughts are born of us as a child is of a mother. She does not create her baby, nor do we our thought. Yet her baby is hers, and our thought is us. It calls out continually, give, give. And those who think spend their lives seeing, doing, and feeling in order to supply it with facts. What becomes of these facts? Are they put together by reason, as logicians say? No, that is not thought. Logic leads at best to proof. Thought leads to sight, and sight to knowledge. A logician, even if his premises be fixed, which in human affairs they rarely are, is like a blind man groping in the dark from one point to another by touch. Thought gives the seeing eye, the hearing ear, and reason is to confirm and prove thought. It cannot take its place. The word thought means sight, and the word idea means thing seen by the mind. The process of thought is like this. You see or hear or feel a thing actually or by sympathy, and it gets into your mind and stays there as an apparently dead thing. You turn it over, look at it from all sides, and put it back. It is still lifeless. You leave it and imagine you forget it, though you never do. Every now and then you turn it over again. All of a sudden, one day you find that the lifeless fact was an egg, and from it is born a living idea. The meaning has come out. It has been hatched by the warmth of your own heart and by the warmth of other living ideas there, from which at length it gains its vitality. You cry, Eureka, as did Archimedes. So did Darwin discover natural selection, so have all great thoughts arisen. My real thought has taken me all my life to hatch, during the whole of which time it seemed dead. It couldn't live until innumerable others had come out to help it. Thought, therefore, is in a sense a revelation, and it is the only revelation there has ever been. So all true thought is of the world soul. Thoughts are the angels, as you will see later, and are the only true prayers. If you wish to be visited by angels, or to have revelations, or eventually to see and be one with the world soul, you must learn to think truly, sincerely, and earnestly. There is no other way. And thought is emotion. Nil es in intellectu quam non fruit in sensu. There is nothing in the intellect that didn't first pass through the senses. And the senses do not mean merely sight, hearing, taste, and smell, but love and hate and hope and fear. These latter are our deepest thoughts. They are there when we are born, and all others are subsidiary to them. For by them we lead our lives. By them is the world ruled. When you have obtained your thoughts, reason proves what you have seen. For a thought alone is like a glimpse seen of some mountain peak whose base is hidden. You must verify that peak. It may be only cloud deceiving you. You must climb that peak before you can get a view from it. Truths, thought seen alone, have no vitality. They must be proved to be facts. They must be coordinated with other facts. And if they can be disproved, then they must be disproved. No peak of truth has any value unless it stand upon a broad base of ascertained fact. Evolution was a thought-seen peak 6,000 years ago. It had no vitality, and the records in which it was written were subject to absurd misinterpretation until Darwin verified it as a true mountain and climbed up a little way. Thought and reason are necessary to each other, but they have different functions. Thought sees, and reason achieves. End of chapter 1 of the book, The World Soul, by H. Fielding Hall, narrated by Rex King.